right, so we've got Mike here just walking around. I don't know what exactly he's doing, but Mike's going to take us around and kind of tell us what is underneath this vehicle, why we've done what we've done, and the parts that have been put in here and why they've been put in there. So, hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, bud?
Nice to meet you.
Take us away.
Alrighty, so in the front end we started off with our Luma 2.5 series coilover, and we have some SBC control arms. Customer mentioned they like to tow and carry a lot of weight, so the 2.5s will do that for you. They have a little bit firmer valving than our normal 2.0 line, so we pushed into the 2.5s. And then the SBC arm just pretty much allows for really good control of the alignment and getting a tire to fit, because we're going with some oversized tires that you have over there, some Coffin Wild Peaks, and really just want to make sure we get the best alignment, best tire fitment, and well, best override ride quality.
Okay, yeah. So you mentioned adjustability then with the SBCs, you said?
Yes, sir, yeah.
Okay, and how would you adjust those, or what exactly would you do on that?
So with this 32mm nut up on top here, we can loosen that up, and we can actually slide the ball joint in and out on the upper control arm, and then we can also clock the ball joint around in different positions for more or less caster. The best way that we install it out of the gate is to actually leave it neutral, and then we actually push out the rear cam bolts and we pull in the front cam bolts, and that will give us the most forward tire movement while giving us about 3.5 to 4 degrees of caster, which allows for a really good alignment and excellent handling on the road.
Very good. And what do you say to the person who's trying to decide what system to go with? We got the Lumas here, but what are other popular options for the GX460?
There's tons of options out there. Everything is situational, so really depending on what you do with the vehicle. We've designed the whole Illuma series around really Colorado state driving, so it's kind of your daily driver, but then on the weekend it's your weekend warrior. So the 2.0 is really good for a nice supple ride quality, and some moderate off-roading and kind of like a stock vehicle weight. The 2.5s are really good for, you know, if you're doing a little bit more heavy stuff, you're doing some towing, or thinking about adding armor on later on, or if you're going to carry like a roof rack with some gear. And then we have the 2.5 with reservoirs, and that will allow you to add some extra heat dissipation there if you're doing a little bit harder off-roading or quicker off-roading, but that has the same carrying capacity as the 2.5s. If you look at the other brands that we carry, we have Old Man Emu, which is great for longevity and also great for weight carrying. Then we have the Bilstein kit, which is great for like a sportier on-road kind of feeling. And then we get into the higher end kits like the BP51s from Old Man Emu. Those are for the customers that really want to dial in their own ride exactly how you want it. Same thing with the Elkas. And then we have Kings and Icons, which are designed more for the guys that want to go faster or do that really hard off-roading where they're going to really abuse their vehicle. And those guys can really take that punishment.
All right, so it's not just a matter of coming in and getting the most expensive shock system.
Correct.
It's kind of like they're designed for specific things, and no one is going to be necessarily good for everything.
Exactly, yeah. Same thing with the upper control arms. The SBCs are a fantastic upper control arm for many situations, but if you are on that higher end with the Kings and the Icons and you're going to start really abusing or off-roading hard, you'd probably want to go to something that has polyurethane bushings in the rear to absorb a little bit more energy instead of these X-axis, which have it's like a steel Heim joint that's sealed hermetically, and this has a ball joint in going to a uniball, which is a little bit more durable, or the Delta joint. So again, you know, everything is situational depending on what you want to do with the vehicle. And the best thing that we can do here is guide you in the right direction on what kit you want to do.
Very good. So when you're looking at Icons, for example, they've got stages. How does that work out when you've got a kit like this? Do I come back and you take everything out and put new stuff in, or how does that work if I want to upgrade for some reason?
So if you ever want to upgrade, there's really not too much further you can do. We can definitely add, you know, we can do a reservoir option. We can't unfortunately add it to this shock because it's not made for that. You'd have to change out the top cap to add a fitting for the hose. So unfortunately, yes, on this vehicle we'd essentially have to remove the kit and redo it all over again. Even with the Icon stages, there are different shocks. I mean, some of them you can add reservoirs onto, but some you cannot. So you really just want to make sure you plan for the future as best you can, so you're not buying everything twice.
Very good.
The nice thing with the Illuma kit, it is rebuildable. Same thing with the Kings and the Icons. So when you get to the point where things have to be redone or refreshened up, you can just get them rebuilt, put them back on the vehicle, and go from there.
And do you guys rebuild?
We do rebuild our own line in-house.
Okay.
We're not rebuilding other manufacturers at this time.
Okay, but this being your own line, of course, you guys
Yep.
can rebuild these.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Any other items you can think of in the front that matter here, or?
Not really. You do have KDSS, so you got to make sure when we're done lifting this vehicle, you have to recalibrate the KDSS system. And keep in mind too, with that KDSS, you will almost always have a fluctuation depending on how you park the vehicle and all that good stuff at night. But for the most part, KDSS vehicles are amazing. You can actually kind of disconnect that sway bar when you get off-roading, and so it's a really neat feature to have.
Okay, and you said something about parking at night. What is that exactly?
So KDSS kind of has a memory. So let's say you come in your driveway and you take a right-hand corner up into your driveway. It might have a little bit of a lean to the left that one night, but then say the next day you take a left up into your driveway, and it might have a little bit of lean to the right, and it'll kind of hold that overnight until you start driving it again. So with these vehicles, sometimes they're a little off.
Okay.
So we like to try to get them within about a quarter of an inch of lean is our goal.
Very good.
So,
Very
yeah.
good. And you want to walk us through the back and
Sure.
kind of talk to.
Yeah, and then same thing back here. So again, the request was we do a little bit of towing and whatnot. So we have our Illuma 2.5s in the back, which again have that nice firm valving or firmer valving, and our 2.0s to kind of compensate for that. We have the Durabumps here to protect the body of the shock, but also to provide a kind of a catch and cushion there when we bottom out on the back end if you're towing a heavy trailer and you hit a big whoop. And then we have our Toytec HT springs, and we're putting airbags in there also, and then we have our Air Ride wireless controlled air compressor to help air up those bags from inside the vehicle.
Okay. So the coil itself, is there a difference between coils, or are they all the same?
With coil springs there can be difference, but in this, within our own range, we have the RCC 2.0, RCC 2.0 HD, and then we have the XD. So 2.0 is for about stock weight vehicles, and obviously it still has your normal carrying capacity, all good stuff. So if you ever go over your GVW, then obviously it's going to sag down the rear. HD is made for about maybe like 200 to 250 pounds worth of constant weight, and then the XDs are a little bit higher than that, usually around 500 pounds or so, and that's going to carry all that weight in the back end for you when you add the cargo box and the roof rack, rooftop tent, or if you're putting armor on the vehicle.
Okay.
So each coil does have a function, and then obviously in the world of coil springs, they are there's linear springs, which essentially have the same spring rate throughout the coil spring, and there's also progressive rate coil springs, which exist to maintain your coil spring inside the vehicle when you start doing some heavier off-roading, so you don't drop out of coil on the trail.
Yeah.
But for the most part, typically if you're doing this style of kit, a linear coil spring will work just fine.
Okay. All right. Very good. And we talked about air and putting airbags in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Where do those go, and what is the purpose? How are they going to help with towing?
So the airbags actually sit inside your coil spring here. And the style of airbags that we're using are the ones from Firestone. So essentially they actually kind of push out and they wedge themselves against the side of the coil spring, and they hold the coil from collapsing essentially. They actually don't carry a weight vertically, it's actually to the sides. So you do still have to be kind of careful when you're off-roading, because you can definitely pinch a bag. So you always want to make sure you maintain about 5 psi or so inside the airbag, so you're not pinching it as you're off-roading. But essentially what that'll help do is it's going to help keep the rear end of your vehicle high when you put a trailer on it, especially if you tow all the time. And that way you can maintain the proper alignment in the front of the vehicle, because we don't want the rear sagging down low, and now we've modified the alignment without doing an alignment to correct it.
Okay.
So, and that helps keep the vehicle to where it's meant to handle from factory.
Okay. So let's talk about leveling these vehicles, and what are your opinions or professional opinion about leveling out a vehicle?
Sure. So pretty much every vehicle out there is meant to have a little bit of rake front to back. Almost every single Toyota out there or Lexus starts off with about 1.5 to 2 inches of rake, which means the rear is higher than the front. And that is because the rear is usually where you carry all the weight, or you do your towing from. And Toyota wants to make sure, one, the headlights are aimed in a decent position, and also for drivability with your handling, you want to make sure you have that little bit of rake there. And that can pretty much apply to any of the vehicles. It's especially more important with all the newer vehicles with the TSSP and all of the new technology that's coming out. You want to make sure you maintain rake, so that way, if you can imagine, you're like aiming a sensor or your headlights, you want to make sure that they are aimed correctly, so you always want to try to maintain rake on the vehicle. Some of our kits do take a little bit of rake out of the vehicle, we always try to maintain at least an inch of rake is ideal for all these systems to work properly.
Okay, very good. So with the setup we have here, how would you run this setup, and any opinions you've got about the overall setup that's been done here today?
If this was my GX, this would probably be very similar to what I would do. I mean, I might go for the 2.0s over the 2.5s, but I don't do a lot of towing just because they're a little bit softer. But for the towing, that's something that you definitely would want.
Okay.
As far as ride height, this kit will end up giving you about 2 inches of lift in the rear and 3 inches of lift in the front. And yeah, it should look pretty sharp when she's done.
Okay. And then what do you drive yourself?
I drive a 2001 Toyota 4Runner.
Okay.
And it's lifted 3 inches with a 2-inch body lift on 35s and all armored up and supercharged, and a pretty fun old ride, so it's pretty neat.
Very nice. All right, so we're going to pan around here. I've got something real cool that I saw when I walked in here. What is the deal with this Tundra? Can you talk about it just at large at all? Or
Sure, yeah. The Tundra is the new 2022 Tundra. We've worked on it a little bit. We put a couple products on there to test fit. We work with our parent company DPI, so we have bumpers front and rear and a couple accessories. RCI supplied the bed rack, and the lift kit that's currently on there right now is actually a prototype kit that we've designed, and we're currently in the midst of making it a production type kit. It's actually my own design, which is kind of cool.
Very nice.
And in the rear end, we actually did Frankenstein some coil springs back there for additional height and carrying ability, but we are currently making our own coil springs for that as well.
Okay, so it's still pretty rare to find parts for these, right? Since it's so new.
Yeah, and
with supply chain and everything going on in the world right now.
Correct. So it's actually really hard to find them because Toyota wants to claim it as a warranty, especially if you're doing any kind of parts replacements right now. So anything you order literally has to get approved by corporate Toyota, not at the dealership level. So you know, to order some parts for this to essentially test fit our lift kit took about 3 to 4 months to get the piece parts. So, but yeah, so everything's kind of slow moving with this, but yeah, it looks pretty sharp. We got on 37s. It's about a 3-inch lift all the way around, and yeah, like I said, we got bumpers on it front and rear, and looks pretty sharp.
What kind of winch system are you running on it?
The winch is a Voodoo winch, which is our own kind of in-house brand.
Okay.
And I believe it's a 9,500 pound winch.
Okay. So what do you say to people that are saying warn?
I mean, everybody, you know, again, it's per situation. There's a lot of really other good brands out there besides Warren. We sell a lot of come-up winches here as well, and I really like the come-up winches a lot. We've literally never had a replacement, and we've been selling them since, well, I've been selling them since 2012 here.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you can choose your own brand. Personally, I do own a Warren winch, and it's a really nice winch. It's a Xeon. But yeah, I mean, all the winches are the same as long as you take care of it, and well, not the same, but as long as you take care of them and use them properly, they should all serve you pretty well. Okay.
Do you have synthetic lines on your winches, or what do you got?
Yeah, we mostly do synthetic lines.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit safer when you're out in the field, and obviously it weighs a lot less, so you don't have to compensate for, you know, extra 50 plus pounds of steel cable on there.
Very nice. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time, Mike.
Have a good one.
Cool. All right, so that was Mike right there. Mike is the service manager here at Toytec Lifts, and just giving us a run through of everything that has been done on this vehicle. And it's been real nice having Mike kind of just help me out. When I came here, you know, you go on the internet, everybody's talking about whatever they've done on their vehicles, so you think you know what's going on. But just coming out here, sitting down with them, and having him kind of walk me through, hey, why do I not want Icon, right? I like Icon. I came in because I wanted Icon because they're black and they look sharp. So what I did is I came in and he sits me down and he asks me questions like, what am I trying to do with the vehicle? And then based on that, we were able to come up with this kit. So like he was mentioning on the video, it's all about what you're doing with the vehicle, right? You're gonna desert run, you may end up with an Icon Stage 5 or whatever it is. I'm towing, I'm driving on fire roads every once in a while, more like that overlanding style, right? And the kit that I have right now really serves my purpose, and you know, it's red, so that's good, right? But no, seriously, I loved coming out here, working with Mike and his team out here, and kind of walking me through everything to figure out exactly what needs to be done here. And FYI, these guys are not paying me, they're not sponsoring me. I have not received any gifts in exchange for this whatsoever. I'm paying full price for all the work that's being done here. All I'm doing is just putting out information, like how my experience here has been since I walked in. And I hadn't even told them this is going to go on a channel. I walked in, everything that happened before this is actually just was completely separate from this. When I came and dropped off my vehicle, I then asked them, hey, do you mind if I film a few things? It was just to kind of put out information out there. My thing is putting out information. I want information out there that's kind of accurate or professional information, right? When you go out onto the internet, it's very hard to find good information out there. So what I'm aiming to do is get people more information, or more accurate information, I should say. So I was super psyched when I asked them, when I dropped off my vehicle, like, hey, can I come and shoot a couple things and ask a couple of questions? They were like, yeah, sure, go ahead and do that. So super cool of them to let me come out here and do this. And I'm hoping that this video has helped some of you out there. Kind of, maybe you're trying to decide what you're going to do with your GX460, or you just need more information, or maybe you want to get a lift done. Toytec lifts, they're out here in Denver, Colorado, which is where I'm also located, so it kind of just worked out. All right, until then, peace.